and news breaks with the same speed.
Sometimes you find the news, and sometimes the news finds you.
All stations can keep up. At Adaba FM, we'll not only give you news at the speed of nanosecond, but we'll also break it down with up-to-date analysis, informed opinions, and distinct professionalism. That's why you love us. Adaba 88.9 FM, your go-to station.
It's midday. Good afternoon. I'm Olajumoke of Motor Show with Global News. In the news, protests continuing in France over new pension age law. Ukrainian president demands urgent weapon supply from European leaders. US and Canada to reject asylum seekers.
It's the news.
Now, the news. The APC Presidential Campaign Council has denied a story in some quarters that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwola, has disguised to meet President-elect Bola Tinubu in London. The council, in a statement by its Director of Media and Publicity, Bayo Ononuga, says the story is fake, misleading, and malicious. The statement says the story was pure concoction from the hallucinating minds of arched men bent on creating doubt and public distrust about the legitimacy of the recent election, which was won by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It adds that there has been no secret meeting between the president-elect and the respected Chief Justice of Nigeria anywhere. The council says the president-elect who left Nigeria on Tuesday has not been in London. It says he's right now in France to have a deserved rest after a hectic campaign that began in January 2022. The statement says he will go to London thereafter before proceeding to Mecca for the Lesser Hajj. It adds that as it prepares for the inauguration on 29 May 2023, Nigerians should expect more false news from a section of the Nigerian media on the peril of the opposition. Spokesman of the Tinubu-Shetima campaign, Festus Keyamo, has petitioned the Department of the State Services over the reckless statement being made by Peter Obi and his running mate Datti Ahmed. In a petition sent to the secret police, Keyamo asked the agency to rein in the two politicians who he said have been hopping from one media house to the other, allegedly making comments and claims about the declaration of the president-elect by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The petition refers to a comment made on March 22, 2023 by Datti Ahmed, wherein he threatened that if the president-elect is sworn in on May 29, 2023, it will signal the end of democracy.
That is where they're going. And so they are setting up a scene for rebellion. And they are setting up a scene to blackmail the judiciary. And that is why if you go online now, they have alerted the DSS that they have camped some boys in one popular hotel in Abuja. And I will give that information to the DSS, where they have told them every morning to be pumping out, online messages to rile up the citizens, cause fear and all of that. And so what they want to do is to say once the judiciary now goes another way, then the judiciary must have sold out.
Keyamo, who is also the Minister for Labour, accused the Labour Party candidate of planning mayhem over their failed ambition. Bordeaux Town Hall has been set on fire as French protests continued over plans to raise the pension age. Interior Ministry said more than 1 million people took to the street across France on Thursday, with 119,000 in Paris. Police fired tear gas at protesters at the capital, and 80 people were arrested across the country. The demonstrations were sparked by legislation raising the retirement age by 2 years to 64. Unions have called for further protests next Tuesday, which will coincide with King Charles III's state visit to the country. Is scheduled to be in the southwest city of Bordeaux on that day, where fire engulfed the front door of the town hall on Thursday evening after a day of protests and clashes. It was not clear who was responsible for the blaze, which was quickly put out by firefighters. Interior Minister Gerard Damin sought to suppress any concerns ahead of the King's trip, saying security poses no problem and that the monarch will be welcomed well. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told European leaders to rapidly increase the supply of modern weapons to his forces, particularly jet fighters and long-range missile systems, saying otherwise they should prepare for the war dragging on for years. He was speaking on a train to Kiev after his third visit in 2 days to war-ravaged areas near the front lines in the south and east of Ukraine. An EU official said Zelensky gave an emotional account of what he had seen as he addressed a summit of European Union leaders gathered in Brussels via video link. In a long and sharply worded address, Zelensky said it was up to the EU as a bloc to take action to contain Russia as its invasion of Ukraine enters the second year. While he welcomed a recent EU plan to send Kiev 1 million artillery shells, he kept up his demands for warplanes and missiles that he believes will be more effective at pushing back Russia's forces. Meanwhile, the first 4 of 13 Soviet-era MiG-29 fighter jets that Slovakia decided to give Ukraine have been transferred to the Ukrainian Air Force. The warplanes were flown from Slovakia to Ukraine on Thursday by Ukrainian pilots with help from the Slovak Air Force. The ministry said the remaining MiG-29 will be handed over to the Ukrainian side in the coming weeks. It said it would not provide any additional details until they are safely in Ukraine. The Slovak government approved the plan to give Ukraine its fleet of 13 Soviet-era MiG-29 fighter jets last Friday, becoming the second NATO member to heed the Ukrainian government pleas for fighter aircraft to help defend against Russia's invasion. You're into Global News from Adaba 88.9 FM Akure, transmitting from Ilaramoki. After the break, US and Canada reject asylum seekers. Please join us again.
The news on Adaba 88.9 FM.
Glad to have you back for news updates and live streaming. Visit our website www.adaba889.fm or download Adaba FM app on Google Play Store. You can be part of us on our social media platforms www.facebook.com/Adaba889 on Facebook, at Adaba889FM on Instagram and on Twitter, and Adaba FM TV on YouTube. To provide us information via email, newsroom@adaba889.fm. Now to the rest of the bulletin. The US and Canada have reached a deal to reject asylum seekers at unofficial border crossings. The US President Joe Biden and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will announce the pact today during Mr. Biden's visit to Ottawa. The accord is expected to allow officials on both sides of the border to turn back such asylum seekers heading in either direction. The U.S. side has also seen a rise in migrant crossings there from Canada. The move is part of efforts to limit an influx of migrants at Roxham Road, an unofficial crossing between New York State and the province of Quebec. As a part of the deal, Canada will create a new refugee program for 15,000 migrants fleeing persecution and violence in South and Central America. The United States military says it carried out multiple airstrikes in eastern Syria against Iran-aligned groups who it blamed for a deadly drone attack earlier, which killed a contractor, injured another, and wounded 5 U.S. troops. In a statement, the Pentagon says the U.S. attacks late on Thursday night were in retaliation for an attack against a U.S.-led coalition base near Haskan in northeastern Syria the same day. U.S. intelligence had access that the attacking drone was Iranian in origin. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the attacks targeted groups affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Revolutionary Guards Corps (IRGG) in eastern Syria. Austin said he authorized the retaliatory strikes at the direction of U.S. President Joe Biden. Russian authorities has detained 69-year-old veteran human rights campaigner Oleg Orlov on charges of repeatedly discrediting the armed forces. If convicted, he would serve up to 3 years in prison. Orlov co-chaired Memorial, Russia's leading human rights organization, which has chronicled abuses from the Soviet era of the present until it was outlawed 2 years ago. Even after its closure, the organization, including Orlov, carried on working under a different name. A member of the memorial, Sevlena Goshekina, told newsmen that the struggle for peace has become a crime. And of course, since Russia invaded Ukraine last year, the Kremlin has tightened screws on critics. North Korea says it has tested an underwater drone that can unleash what it called radioactive tsunami. State media said the secret weapon was put in the waters of South Amyong province on Tuesday. Reports say it cruised for over 59 hours at a depth of 80 to 150 meters and was detonated off its east coast. But analysts urge caution on North Korea's claim about the capabilities of the new weapon. Tensions of the Korean peninsula have been running high as the U.S. and South Korea concluded the largest joint field exercise in 5 years on Wednesday. Today, South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol said he would make sure that North Korea pays the price for what it describes as its reckless provocations. On a sport, Nigeria will welcome Guinea-Bissau in a battle for supremacy at the top of the table as two teams who have made a fine start to their respective Africa Cup of Nations qualifying campaigns at the Moshood Abiola Stadium, Abuja, on Friday. Both teams are unbeaten during those qualifiers after 2 matches played. While the Super Eagles have claimed the maximum points from their opening 2 games, the Wild Dogs have 4 points after a win and a draw. After beginning their AFCON qualifier with a 2-1 victory against Sierra Leone, Joseph Pesaro's men made easy work out on Sao Tome and Principe with a comfortable 10-0 win on June 13. Napoli forward Victor Osimhen was the star of the show as he netted 4 times and set up further strikes of Moses Simon and Therem Murphy, who were joined on the score sheets by Peter Etebo, Ademola Lookman and Emmanuel Dennis. Despite their impressive display in the qualifiers, the Eagles failed to record a win in their last 3 games, losing to Algeria, Costa Rica and Portugal, all in friendly encounters. Bayern Munich have sacked head coach Julian Nagelsmann and replaced him with Thomas Tuchel until 2025. Nagelsmann recently guided Bayern into the Champions League quarterfinals within a 3-0 aggregate win over Paris Saint-Germain. Bayern suffered a 2-1 defeat at the hands of Bayern Leverkusen before the international break, resulting in Borussia Dortmund moving 1 point ahead of the title race. The decision comes despite Bayern having collected 52 points from 25 top-flight fixtures and losing 3 times. To end global news, a recap of the top stories. Bordeaux Town Hall has been set on fire as French protests continue over plans to raise the pension age. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told European leaders to rapidly increase the supply of modern weapons to his forces, particularly jet fighters and long-range missile systems. And we also told you that the US and Canada have reached a deal to reject asylum seekers at unofficial border crossings. That's Global News as edited by Sunday Ajiboye. I'm Olajumoke Omotosho saying good afternoon and thanks for listening.